Welcome to the Martin Bailey Photography Podcast. It's April 30, 2019, and this is episode 659. Today we're going to take a look at an amazing new brand of memory cards and card readers from ProGrade Digital. I've been very impressed with them, and I'm sure you will be too. ProGrade Digital contacted me many months ago now to see if I would like to try their new line of high quality memory cards, and as I wrote my reply, I realized that they did not make compact flash cards. At the time, compact flash was my preferred memory card type, but as we'll see, this was based on old information and a lack of understanding of current technology on my part. Either way though, at the time I thought that there were no products available that I use, so I put the conversation on the back burner for a while. Then I decided it was time to get my first mirrorless camera and bought the EOS R. And with that using the SDXC format memory cards, it was the perfect chance to evaluate ProGrade Digital's cards. So I jumped on the phone to them and had a few types of cards sent over to Japan for me to test. In the spirit of full disclosure, you should know that I kept the two cards and workflow reader that I was sent, but I'd also like you to know that I have since bought a third card from Amazon.co.jp, and I'm actually using that as my main card now. So I voted with my dollars, or yen as the case may be. So let's take a look at these cards and how they stood up to my tests. Testing memory cards must be broke down into a number of areas, as no one aspect can truly help us to evaluate a card. The main areas that I'm concerned with are the read and write speeds, the card's ability to store my images fast enough to not slow down my camera, and reliability. The first two are relatively easy to test, and we'll get to these results in a moment. But first, let me talk about reliability and how I tested it. In my opinion, the only way to test the reliability of a memory card is to use it day in, day out in the field. This is the reason that you haven't seen a review of these cards until now, despite me taking delivery of them in December 2018. I needed to use the cards in the field to ensure that they weren't going to break on me. In my 19 years of shooting digital, I've actually had very few issues with cards. I attribute this partly to the fact that I always use the erase all images function in my camera before formatting the card again in the camera. I also never delete images from the card in the camera and then continue shooting. I sometimes delete the last photo or two that I shot, but I never go back through the card looking for images that I can delete. In my opinion, this is just asking for trouble. I actually did have problems with images getting corrupted when I first started shooting digital in 2000, and someone at Canon told me that deleting images randomly from the card and then continuing to shoot with it can cause problems, so I've just not done it since. It's hard to say, of course, if it's because of these things that I've had so few issues, but I can't imagine it's hurt in any way either. I did have a SanDisk card develop a fault a couple of years ago, and it turns out that the card had literally become defective and needed to be replaced. But that was the only time that this had happened to me in 19 years, so I've had a pretty good track record. I should mention though that I have mainly used SanDisk and Lexar cards, with a couple of Transcend cards thrown in for good measure. Compared to 19 years of shooting, I do have a relatively short frame of reference to draw from for this review, but I've used a 256GB ProGrade Digital UHS2 U3 Class 10 V9 card for all 3 of my Japan winter tours, shooting a total of 16,000 images, and so far I've not had any problems with them. One new thing that I have been doing on the advice of the ProGrade digital team is to perform a low-level format by turning on the checkbox in the format screen on my camera whenever I format the cards. So at this point, I have no concerns about the reliability of these cards. They've securely saved 16,000 of my images over the last few months, and I see no reason why they won't continue to do so moving forward. I have to admit, when it comes to speed testing these memory cards, I initially completely missed the verbiage on the ProGrade digital website that adds important information about the cards. The speeds written on the face of the cards is apparently only the read speed. The write speed is different, sometimes different to the point that you really wish the manufacturers of these cards would print it on the card along with the much higher read speed. For example, the V90 SDXC cards that I have are rated at 250 megabytes per second read speed and 200 megabytes per second write speed. That's not a huge difference, and my tests actually showed that the write speed was much higher at 238 megabytes per second, so the difference is minimal. The V60 SDXC cards, though, have a much larger difference, with their read speeds up at 200 megabytes per second, but their write speeds are only supposed to be up to 80 megabytes per second. Again, in my tests, the write speed was higher at 98 megabytes per second, and the read speed was spot on at 200.2 megabytes per second. Anyway, I grabbed all of my latest model cards and did some comparisons, pitching my new ProGrade digital cards against my latest SanDisk compact flash cards and a new Transcend SDXC card that I use in my Zoom H6 digital recorder. I have also seen people shooting digital cameras with the small micro SD cards in the adapter, and although this works, it's generally going to slow the camera down. So I included a SanDisk Ultra micro SDXC card and a Transcend micro SD HC card for comparison. I'm including the details in a graph, and if you're listening on a device that you can't see the images that we're talking about, then go to the blog post at mbp.ac/659 to take a look at the results in detail. I was pleasantly surprised by these results. For many years I've considered SD cards to be much slower than compact flash cards, and for a while I believed that was true. But as you can see from these results, the read speeds of the ProGrade digital cards are much faster than my latest SanDisk compact flash cards, although I believe that as of April 2019, at 160 megabytes per second, the Extreme Pro cards that I tested are SanDisk's fastest compact flash cards. And for good measure, here is a merged screenshot of the test results for each card, so that you can check out their other data if that's of interest to you. Personally, I don't really understand the other numbers. The sequential read-write speeds are all that I'm interested in. Thinking about it, if I'd known that these V90 SDXC cards were so much faster than my compact flash cards, I actually should have started using them in the SD slot of my 5DSRs when ProGrade first contacted me. I was never really concerned about the speed of my SanDisk cards, but that's because I thought I was using the fastest cards available. If I'd been using these faster ProGrade digital SDXC cards, the painfully slow frame rate of my 5DSR might have improved a little. It's hard to say now though, as I've actually already sold both of them. The other important aspect with regards to the speed of a memory card is its ability to keep up with the camera. I have travelled with people that complain that their cameras are not even close to the frames per second that they are supposed to be capable of. And there are sometimes reasons for this other than the speed of the card. For example, depending on your camera's settings, the frame rate can drop if, like me, you tell the camera not to release the shutter unless it's pretty sure the image is in focus. Oftentimes though, when I check the cards of the people that are unhappy with the speed of their camera and its ability to empty a full buffer, they are using cheap and often very slow memory cards. Of course, price is always a factor, and this is why ProGrade Digital offers their V90 and V60 versions of their SDXC cards. The 256GB V90 card has a price tag of $380 compared to just $140 for the same size card in the V60 form factor. If the lower price is attractive, you just need to ask yourself if the performance gains are necessary for your shooting workflow. And the ability of the card to save your images and empty your buffer is a big part of this. So I did a relatively crude but useful test by simply setting my camera in manual focus with a fast shutter speed of a 500th of a second so that didn't slow anything down, and just mashed down on the shutter until the buffer was full while taking a few readings. And I noticed, for example, that if I did bursts of around 10 to 15 frames, the buffer took around 4 times longer to empty on the V60 card compared to the V90 card. But when I tried completely filling the buffer, the difference was much less. It took 10 seconds to empty a full buffer of 31 images on the V90 card and around 12.5 seconds on the V60 card. So if you think about how many times you're likely to fill your buffer completely and how often waiting an extra 2.5 seconds for that buffer to completely empty is going to mess up your workflow, I don't imagine the time difference is going to be much of a problem. I also transferred the test images to my computer and looked at the EXIF data to count how many frames per second I was getting. With the V90 cards, I was getting a continuous 8 frames per second, which is the maximum frame rate for my EOS R, so that's great. The V60 card gave me 8 frames per second sometimes and 7 frames per second other times, so we can average this out to 7.5 frames per second, and that is still very respectable for a card that is 37% the cost of its big brother. Again, when asking which one is for you, just ask yourself if that 0.5 second difference is really going to kill you in the field. But being a complete hypocrite, I have never been able to get over my mum's advice of, if you're going to have one, have a big one. So when it came to buying myself another ProGrade Digital SDXC card, I, of course, went for the 256GB V90 card. But you know what? There is another incredibly cool reason that I did that. As a company, ProGrade Digital have decided to break the mold and offer their cards at pretty much the same price in all countries that you can buy them from. And because they have no prices to protect from country to country, you can also simply buy them direct from the ProGrade Digital online store and have them shipped to you. Of course, if you live in the US, this doesn't affect you in any other way, except for you can be happy that ProGrade are a cool company. If you live outside of the US though, this really is a breath of fresh air. Historically, the other memory card companies have and still do charge way more for their cards outside of the US. For example, my SanDisk 256GB Extreme Pro compact flash card is currently for sale for $340 on Amazon.com and B&H. And that same card on Amazon here in Japan is $452. It's actually been a while since I checked, and that difference seems less than before, so I think the big guys are taking a leaf out of ProGrade's book, or maybe ProGrade has them running scared. Either way, this is a huge step in the right direction, and I hope that many other companies start to follow suit. From what I hear from the ProGrade team, in addition to Amazon in the US, you can now buy their products from Amazon in Mexico, Canada, 27 countries in Europe, Japan, Australia, and they are currently in the process of launching in India and the UAE. Before we wrap up this episode though, I have to tell you about what ProGrade Digital are calling their workflow readers. These are memory card readers that are absolutely amazing. I have used many card readers over the years, and some have been good, some not so good. But the ProGrade reader blows them all out of the water. The main reason I love this card reader is because it's fast. Of course, I used it for all of the tests that we've done, but when I got to the hotel each evening during my recent winter tours, it literally only took a few minutes to transfer hundreds of images to my external SSD. Keeping in mind though that I am using USB 3.1 Gen 2 connectivity on both my 13-inch MacBook Pro and my iMac Pro, and that is much faster than USB 3. And my drive being a super fast Samsung X5 solid-state drive makes a difference too. But transfer speeds are always only as fast as the weakest component. So having everything at the latest and greatest really helps me to appreciate the speed that this all provides. The other thing that I love about the ProGrade Digital Workflow Reader that I have is that it has both a compact flash and SD card slot. And get this, you can transfer images from both slots at the same time, and the transfer speed doesn't drop when you do that. I ran a test with two different speed test applications open, one running a test on my SanDisk CF card and the other running a test on one of my ProGrade digital cards. And when I stopped one, the other didn't change its speed at all. They just kept steaming along without batting an eyelid, and that is impressive. These workflow readers come in a number of configurations, so although I got the compact flash and SD card version, you can also get readers with dual micro SD card slots, a CFast and SD slot, dual SD slots, and a single slot CFX card reader. Now that I have sold my Canon 5DSR bodies and bought a second EOS R, I no longer own a camera that uses compact flash cards, so I'll be getting a dual SD card reader the next time I place an order with Amazon Japan. And that will enable me to download images from two cards at the same time. When using software like Capture One Pro that can actually handle simultaneous imports, especially when it doesn't slow down the transfer at all, this can be a huge time saver. So check out these card or workflow readers on your local Amazon store or on the ProGrade Digital website. They are compact, incredibly fast, and even come with a little metal strip that you can attach to something and then clip the reader to it with the built-in magnet if you like. A great product to support an amazing line of memory cards from this wonderful new forward-thinking company. And that reminds me, I didn't even mention that ProGrade are creating CF Express, Micro SDX and CFast cards in addition to the SDXC cards that I'm now using. And when you consider that regular compact flash cards are now on their way out, I can understand their business decision to concentrate on these new technologies. So we'll wrap it up there for this episode. Do check out ProGrade Digital's products when you're in the market for a new memory card or reader. They've completely impressed me with their speed and quality, so I recommend their products with a massive thumbs up. For links and, as I say, to check out the graphs with the test results, do head over to the post at mbp.ac/659. Thanks very much for listening today. If you enjoy this podcast, please share a link with your friends. Subscribe in iTunes or your favorite podcast program to ensure uninterrupted delivery. If you have a moment to rate the podcast or leave us a review in iTunes, that helps to keep us relevant in the huge number of podcasts out there now. You can find me on Instagram, Facebook and Twitter, etc. And links to everything that I'm up to are at martinbaileyphotography.com, so do drop by and take a look. I'll be back next week with another episode. But in the meantime, you take care and have a great week, whatever you're doing. Bye bye.